Now welcome to another lightning response video, where this time we got a question from EG Gaming who asked, "Hey Thor, I was curious recently, I've been hearing some different news out of Lucasfilm, and I gotta be honest, I'm really not excited for any project that's slated to come out besides Andor Season 2. I'm a lifelong Star Wars fan, and it's one of, if not my all-time favorite franchises and stories and universes ever. The prequels practically shaped my childhood imagination, and I've loved it since I was young. However, I really haven't enjoyed much of anything from Disney Lucasfilm since their purchase of the company. That's mainly to preface my question to communicate how sad it is that I haven't been interested in a Star Wars project in a very long time. It's lost the magic, so I'm curious if there's a Star Wars project that you were most looking forward to and why. Have a good day." Alright, so in this video, let's kind of just run down the list of what actually is coming from Lucasfilm or from Star Wars or Disney Star Wars in the coming years that we know of for sure, or that is scheduled to come out. As we always have to joke here, you never know if something Star Wars is going to come out until it actually does, because they announce so many things and so many never come to fruition. And this all goes along with the rumor that has recently come out to go along with a anonymous source within Lucasfilm who said that Rey is their best asset and they will have multiple projects involving her going forward. But now there is a rumor that she is pretty much attached to every single movie that they have in production right now, or pre-production, or are planning, short of the Filoni film, which is going to be Mandoverse almost certainly, and the Dawn of the Jedi movie, which will deal with the first Jedi, though as I have speculated before, it would not surprise me at all if that movie does have connections to whatever they're doing with Rey. We of course know Rey has the ancient Jedi books that were first written by the Jedi way back in the day, by the first Jedi, we have to assume. So it's not going to surprise me, again, if there is some sort of connection between something they will know back in the day or have learned way back in the beginning, and that Rey will read about in the books and try to implement with her Jedi Order. As for how excited I am about that, about the Dawn of the Jedi movie that will be done by James Mangold, who recently did Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which surprises me that he is still going to be doing that, and as far as we know, that will begin filming next year. Anyway, not super excited about that. I really don't want to go back to the Dawn of the Jedi. They did it in Legends. I was not a big fan of that. I've been promising to do a video on the reasons why. I'm not going to go into it here. But I wasn't a big fan of how they handled it in Legends, or the EU, whatever you want to call it. And so, not super excited about it here. If George Lucas himself wanted to go back and tell us what he thinks the origin, or what the origin of the Jedi are according to him, I would be okay with that. And I'm really skeptical about how current day Lucasfilm will handle that, and how it may have, again, implications for the Rey movie or movies that are coming. And speaking of those, I'm not super excited for them either. I'm not super excited to see Rey in a bunch of movies. I hope they're good. I always say that I root for Star Wars, and I do hope somehow, some way they figure out this character, that they somehow make her better than she was in the sequels. And there was potential there, don't get me wrong. I've said before, there was a good idea there in theory, maybe a bit redundant with Luke and Anakin coming from a desert planet and all that sort of thing. But it's not like she was hopeless from the very beginning, and so there's something that could be done with her, right? They can figure it out, right? We then, of course, have the Dave Filoni Mandoverse movie, what we all assume will be a kind of culmination movie of everything they've been setting up on Disney Plus or in the Disney Plus shows, and then with the Mando and Grogu movie, which I am kind of excited for. I think that could be a pretty decent movie. I don't think it's going to be the greatest Star Wars movie ever. I think it's going to more or less be a really big and expensive looking episode of The Mandalorian. But that's fine. I liked that show. I liked the first season in particular, when it was a little more just Mando and Grogu, a little more small scale before they had to bring in every character in season 2 and try to up the stakes and the scale. I kind of predicted they'd do that, but when they did it, I was like, well, yeah, you probably shouldn't have. It was fine as it was. But yeah, I think that movie could be fine. I think it's going to be an enjoyable 2 hours to sit in a theater and watch Mando being Mando and kicking some butt, and some cute stuff out of Grogu. Maybe a little tease and hint as to what's to come in the future of the Mandoverse. So yeah, I'm kind of excited for that one. And I want to be excited for the future culmination movie from Filoni. I kind of lost a little confidence in Filoni after the Ahsoka series. I know some people really like it. I was not a huge fan. I thought it could have been much, much better. And so now him doing a movie, well, he kind of failed his first test in a manner of speaking, his first real live action project that was all his own. So hopefully he can learn from his mistakes in Ahsoka Season 1 and make the movie better and make Ahsoka Season 2 better as well, because there are some good ideas in there as well. I liked Balin, I liked Shin. As much as I've always had this kind of love-hate relationship with Mortis, as fascinating as it is in one respect, it kind of feels a little off in another, that it doesn't really align with the Force just being an energy field as Yoda describes it. It feels a little weird to have something akin to gods with the father and the daughter and the son and potentially the mother too, if that is where Ahsoka is going, if they're going to bring in Abeloth, which that would be kind of crazy to bring into the canon. Not saying I hated her in EU, but it is a really super powerful being to suddenly have in Star Wars, which might just feel a little weird. But anyway, yeah, I have hope for the Dave Filoni culmination Mando movie, whatever we want to call it, that is coming down the road. And as far as we've heard about that, that is years away yet, like 3 or 4 years away yet. As for any of the other movies we kind of know about, well, there is the recently announced Simon Kinberg trilogy, which will apparently also feature Rey, so I'm going to just say keep my fingers crossed and hope something comes of that until we learn a hell of a lot more than we currently do about it. Then there's things like the supposed Taika Waititi, the Rian Johnson trilogy, which I don't think is ever happening, and a few other films which have been announced over the years, but we really have heard next to nothing about them in quite some time, so hard to be excited about something you are very skeptical is ever going to happen. Moving on to shows or Disney Plus shows now, I cannot wait for Andor Season 2, that I am super duper excited for. I have nothing but confidence in Tony Gilroy and company that they're going to knock it out of the park like they did with Season 1. So that is the thing I am most looking forward to. We then have the aforementioned Ahsoka Season 2, which I said I'm kind of excited for. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed on that. There's also, well, nothing else that we know of. There is the Lando series, which has become a Lando movie, which we really haven't heard too much about either, which I like Lando, so maybe that'll be good. It'll be Donald Glover's Lando. I thought he did pretty good in Solo, so sure, why not, I guess. There's also another animated project, no doubt, in the works, which I would imagine is going to kind of carry on the torch from The Bad Batch, which carried on the torch from Clone Wars and kind of Rebels to a degree. I'm thinking it's going to be an Asajj Ventress show. I don't know why else you bring her randomly back in Bad Batch if you don't have lots of plans for her. And even the voice actors for Asajj says this is just the beginning. My guess continues to be Asajj and maybe Omega. And perhaps even like a Quinlan Voss, some kind of show set between the original trilogy and what we just got with Bad Batch, that maybe focuses on the path and how the Jedi have gone into hiding or are helping other Force-sensitive people, something along those lines. Again, that's just a pure guess. I have nothing to base that on other than my own intuition, I suppose. That is then pretty much it for shows that we know about. There have been no other announcements recently for upcoming shows. I am assuming that will change this coming April at Star Wars Celebration, but for now, that is it, which means we can now move on to video games, and Jedi Fallen Order 3 is coming. I am excited for that. Really enjoyed the first two. We don't know much about it yet, but we can make some educated guesses about Cal being tempted further by the dark side, perhaps. He had some issues in the previous game, let's say, so that's where I'm assuming that goes. I don't think it ends well for Cal Kestis, because again, we have that problem of where is he during the original trilogy or after? Not that he has to be everywhere all at once or anything like that. He can be off doing his own thing during those events, but it really doesn't make much sense that Luke was the new hope, the only hope left, yet we had all these other Jedi running around. Though at the same time, something tells me we will see Cal Kestis in live action someday. Cameron Monaghan is the character's voice actor, and he looks just like the character in the game, so that is an easy transfer from video game to live action should they want to do it, and people have been asking for it for a while. There's been, those hints and rumors out there that it's going to happen, and I think it will. As for other games, well, there is Star Wars Eclipse. I do believe that is still in production. We saw this pretty elaborate trailer a couple years back. It is set during the High Republic era, which might be a turnoff to some people. I don't really have anything against the High Republic era. There has been some good, there has been some bad when it comes to that. But yeah, I hope I hope whatever that turns out to be, assuming it does turn out to be something. It's been a while since we got an update of any kind on that, but sure, I have hope for that. There's also the KOTOR remake, which is supposedly still happening. Speaking of things that have been announced a while ago and not really any updates coming, though again we hear kind of from behind the scenes those leaks and those rumors, which may be true, might not be true, but that yes, it is still in production and is still set to come out someday. And being a big fan of KOTOR, yeah, I'd love to play a KOTOR remake. I would be excited for that, assuming it somehow happens. And so yeah, that's kind of my stance on what's to come from Star Wars in the next couple of years that we know about anyway. I may have missed something. I'm just going off the top of my head and trying to remember it all here. But there are a few things I'm looking forward to. The top of the list, just like with you, is Andor Season 2. And I understand the people who are like, there's nothing I'm all that interested in that is coming out. You also have reason to be skeptical of any projects coming out because there hasn't been a lot of really good lately. There's been some average and some not so good, and we got Skeleton Crew in a matter of days, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's the rundown. That's what's coming. That's how I feel about it. Certainly, as I said, Star Wars Celebration, which is next April, there will be some new announcements. There will be probably updates on a few things. We will almost certainly get a trailer for Mando and Grogu. We will certainly see more from Andor Season 2, which is set to release about that same time. I gotta imagine there will be updates on whatever these Rey projects are and a lot more stuff to be announced then. Certainly the next animated series will be announced either before then or at that time. So yeah, that's where we stand as Star Wars fans right now. That is what's coming, and that is how I feel about it. Well, that's going to be all I got for you this time. Hope you enjoyed this video. A little kind of different, just me rambling about Star Wars, which is, yeah, what most of my videos are, but just kind of off the cuff, just giving you my thoughts, telling you what's coming. And if you want to ask me a question for a future video, maybe like this one, all you got to do, you take to the comments below, you say, "Hey Thor," so I can know you're asking me a question for a video like this. You ask your question, I try to respond to it in a future video, and that's that. But for now, again, leave those comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars, and until next time, thanks for watching.